This podcast may contain themes that are not appropriate for younger ears. Sorry, kids. Listener discretion advised.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. It's nice to see you again. It's been a while, huh? Hey, thanks for sticking around through season 2 and even into the bonus episodes. We covered a lot this last season. We met some really insightful people, and of course we took on the huge endeavor that is video studio recording. So what we're gonna do now is dive into the 2-part bonus episode for the end of the bonus series at the end of season 2. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna meet and learn more about what it takes to make this show great. The unsung heroes behind the scenes, the people who are behind the look, the sound, the feel, and the quality of it all. So get ready to learn more about what, but more importantly, who it takes to make the show what it is. You know who I am? Let's roll. You know what? I forgot. We need to introduce our panel. So
I can't help my face is just very expressive.
I'll just start that over and we'll cut with B-roll.
He ends almost every sentence in baby.
This is like the roughest start we've ever had. I love this.
I'm almost still drunk from Vegas this morning.
Is that camera rolling? Oh, hey, come this way. We're ready for you in the studio.
Okay, rolling.
Yo, grab your...
Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a really good show.
Hello, hello. We're back. And now we're going there. Taboo topics are back on the table.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this rendition of Meet the Going There team. You know, as somebody who spends most of his career behind the camera, I know the stars can get all the attention and all the glory. So this is our chance to show the people behind the scenes what they do, who they are, and you know what it is that makes the show so great. In my opinion, my humble opinion, the quality of the show is top-notch because of these awesome folks. And today we have with us a very vital member of our team. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Bobby Thomas. I am an audio engineer person. I do audio stuff. What Matt does is he sends me the audio to all of the episodes, and I try to clean it up and try to make it sound all cohesive because these mics can be very, very different. So that's what I do.
But you have a rich history of profession in audio in lots of different ways.
Well, I wouldn't call it rich because you don't get there.
You have a very poor history.
Got a poor history in audio. Yeah, I started... I'm dating myself here now, but I started in 1979 on the air at a station in Cleveland called WZZP, Zip 106. Usually you said that to a disco beat. Doom, 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 doom. Zip 106. You had to do.
Was that when cocaine was still allowed
that
to
was
be
when
done in the
cocaine was
office?
absolutely. You could smoke, you could drink, and do cocaine, all while watching the turntable go round and round. Yeah, and we actually did have turntables in 1979.
A lot of people hearing it like, oh yeah, he must be the voice of the show. That's actually a different person, believe it or not. But Bobby, you've had a long history as a voice artist. You were on season 1. You talked a little bit about that.
I've been doing radio for a long time, which means doing commercial production. So you had to do commercials as part of your gig. So that was more so than being on the air. That was really where my wheelhouse was. Back in the 80s and 90s, I was working for a station called WDOK, Soft Rock 102.1. And I did a lot of the promos, so my voice was heard, not only being on the air in Afternoon Drive, but my voice was heard throughout the day because I was voicing promos. WDOK was huge. We were like the number one station for adult contemporary with soft rock, and that, that meant James Taylor and Elton John and those kind of artists. And I would get the like if I was at the grocery store and I would just strike up a conversation with someone or whatever, they're checking out and you mention something and they would go, "Huh?" They knew you, but they couldn't figure out where they knew me from. They couldn't recognize me because I was always behind a mic.
Yeah.
But as long as I was speaking, they would go, "Ooh," that Tim Allen, like, "Huh?" And I would get these strange looks, and I was like, so you just let it go by. For some reason, some strange reason, whenever I would go and order bourbon and ginger ale or order a drink, the bartender would go, "You're on the radio. You're on DOK. And he would pick me out of a crowd just by ordering a drink. Okay, bartenders, we must have been a very popular station among bartenders.
Yeah, they probably played at a lot of bars, especially for happy hours. Like, no one's going to be offended by the soft rock.
Right,
But
exactly.
also, you have a distinct voice. And remember, I sent you a movie trailer not that long ago. I said, "Bobby, if this is not you," and it sounded like you got other people who are trying to imitate your sound. Yeah. But you can do more than just radio sound. You can do voices. Here, look to camera and say the line, "Taboo topics are back on the table. Give me radio announcer."
Taboo topics are back on the table.
Give me the bear from the Quickie Mart commercials.
From who? Hey, taboo topics are on the table. Yogi Bear.
The Convenience Mart.
Oh, yeah, Convenient Food Mart. Yeah.
That was him. He was like this, and he talked like this.
I got in trouble for that, almost, because I did that voice with, it was a telling stories for kids.
So listen, kids, this is where we're going to, when you hear this sound, bling, turn the page.
So I did that in the.
They tried to sue you for it?
Not me. They wanted to sue the company that I was working for. But I moved to LA back in '86, and one of the first things I had to do was go give a deposition in this big office tower that swayed because they said I sounded too much like Teddy Ruxpin.
So let's get sued by Hanna-Barbera. Give me Elroy Jetson and Taboo Topics.
Well, Elroy is kind of up here, dear old dad. Elroy is up here, and he talks like this, and then Augie, Doggy, and yes, dear old dad.
And then there's all these, all these different variations. And Huckleberry Hound was, "Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine." He couldn't stay in tune, and neither could I. Interesting story. I did a lot of Hanna-Barbera voices because it was my God, my hero. It was only done by one guy, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, Snagglepuss even, Exit, Stage Left even. All those voices, one man, and you had no idea that it was that one guy. With
he was doing stuff in Scooby-Doo. He was doing stuff in
everywhere. He was like Hanna-Barbera personified. Now, Mel Blanc, you knew who Mel Blanc was. He did Bugs Bunny and all those voices.
And who was your Hanna-Barbera guy?
And his name was Doss Butler.
And you got to meet him, and he mentored you a little bit.
Got to meet him. He was just in his retirement phase. He had this wonderful little studio that he built where he would invite people to come over, and he was a prolific writer himself. And he would write these little scenarios. He wrote them for 2, 3, 4, 5 people at a time, 6 characters. And he would pass them out, and he would have everybody at the table read these characters. He would assign a character, and then he would critique you.
I'm going to start doing that just for shits and giggles, I think. All right, I wrote characters for all of you.
Right.
I just want to have, that power of God. I'm going to control what you say and you say.
But he did have power of God because he was your God.
He earned it.
And then he invited me to come, and it was just he and I, and we read these 2 character vignettes for 2 characters, 2 different people, and I was with him for 4 hours. And he was there, I was here, and I'm sitting here going, oh my God, I'm reading I'm acting with Yogi frickin' Bear right there. I'm acting with, Huckleberry Hound was there, and he did all of these voices.
And this was in a different era. Nowadays
Totally.
everyone's doing it from their home for the most part, even the
Right.
big studios.
Right.
It's just not what it used to be, which is sad because it's an art form that I think is largely going out the window.
It's a very different business today. Usually actors, A-list actors would never go near it. A-list actors in the 80s would never even go near a commercial. It was people like in the mid 80s, I'm dating myself here, Bruce Willis. He was pretty popular and he was doing commercials.
Yeah.
And he was doing a commercial for wine coolers. Okay. Now they're calling them hard seltzer.
Yeah.
Those were wine coolers back in the day. Back when I was doing it, you were typecast.
Yeah.
And the specs for a commercial announcer became, we're looking for a Bruce Willis type. We're looking for a Rodney Dangerfield type. Rodney Dangerfield? And they wanted Rodney, They wanted to do somebody to do a commercial. Okay. And then there was also Burgess Meredith, the Penguin in the Batman series, right? And also, I'll knock you into tomorrow, Rock. That guy. He became a type.
Yeah.
So they were looking for, he was doing Honda.
But a lot of these people you're talking about are character actors, right? Like he wasn't a star, he was a character actor.
Forget about character. They were actors.
But now you have celebrities. Everyone's going to get their turn at some point to say, what's in your wallet?
Right. Or okay, so the notoriety of doing things on camera and be what's in your wallet, it's the audio commercials, the radio commercials, the TV voiceover that they're doing. And you don't really, like some of these, you don't really know their voice. You go,
Patrick Dempsey. You're like,
right.
Why is Patrick Dempsey doing this commercial?
Right, exactly. So it's not taboo anymore for actors to do commercials because they don't have to wear makeup. They don't have to wear wardrobe. They don't have to read and memorize lines. Everything is right there.
And the idea of celebrity has been diluted greatly. And celebrities don't have the kind of sway they used to have. Charlize Theron just did an interview where she was saying, like, I have movies that I pitch all the time and they get knocked down. But they want me to play, the chick in this movie. And so there's less star power to do things. And I don't know if that's a terrible thing, but either way, it's the industry has changed.
It's changed a lot. And you'll notice it with what Doss Butler and Mel Blanc used to do. They were voice actors.
Yeah.
And they did the cartoon voices. And so did, there was a litany of cartoon voices, cartoon actors that made these characters come to life. And that way of doing business is no longer
the old Disney films. You didn't know who any of the voice actors were. They were nobodies.
They were just actors who could sing.
But now every movie that comes out is full of stars because they want to get people to show up to the things.
Exactly. And there's no characters like there's no little funny voices or there's no little things
or
like.
If there is, it's very bizarre. I don't know if you guys saw the new Pinocchio. I watched a few minutes of it. I was like, who is doing? What's his name? Jiminy Cricket, and it was. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was the closest to a character voice I've heard anybody do in a while.
Yeah.
And it was not.
And he was doing of an impression of the original.
He was doing
Jiminy
an impression, but it wasn't as fine-tuned. It wasn't like a Seth MacFarlane who has it down to an art form. Like he's one of the last really good
Seth
voice
MacFarlane is one of those cartoon voice people that can change his voice, and it's not. And one of the things that Doss Butler taught me, it's not that you have a cartoon. I can do voices.
Yeah.
Well, so can everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody can do a voice. What you need to do is you need to act. You need to be a character. Yeah. The character comes first, and the voice follows.
And the voice should be consistent. And that's what I was noticing in Jiminy Cricket. It was kind of all over the place. But Seth MacFarlane, he has a group of people watching him do the voiceovers, even though he's been doing Stewie for how many years. They used to be like, hold on, your accent's going a little bit. That kind of art form I feel like is lost.
It is.
Let's get into taboo topics.
Sorry about
I'm going to
that.
spitfire some questions here in a second, but you're in LA. You're the only person who's like super remote from the podcast, but you and I have always tried to team up however we can, even if we're across the country from each other.
Exactly.
And so if somebody's sitting in your studio at home, what are they watching you do with going there?
Well, it's usually with headphones on, watching this little waveform on a monitor and picking my nose. That's what they want. No, other than the picking the nose part, that's what I'm doing, because I've gotten to the point where I can see pee pops just in the waveform that's on the monitor.
Yeah.
Or what you were having a problem with was people doing this, and I know I'm going to clean this up and I'm going to hate myself because I did that. It just the thumping and the popping and it's so many things that when you only hear the voice, it really just exaggerates and it pops off the screen and in your headphones. So I have, thankfully, this wonderful software that allows you to eliminate all of these things.
You're going through and you're eliminating what?
I'm eliminating, well, for a while, some buzzes. Some pee pops were very prominent in season 1.
Yeah.
When, people popping their peas getting too close to the microphone, and then the thumping, and it's just people making their gestures when they're talking. And it's very difficult to try to stop people from doing that.
If you're trying to have a candid conversation, it's really tough.
It
because
really is.
You want to use your hands, you want to be natural.
Right, and they make an emphasis, and so they're making an emphasis by hitting the table.
Right, or moving in their seat too much, or moving back and forth, or
Right,
screaming
right.
too
Or even
loud.
this.
Yeah. Now it's not doing it.
Now
when
it's
you want
not
to.
doing it.
And the other thing is you still get, I don't care, like we are in a nice, clean, pretty quiet studio. You still get a little bit of echo. You still get hum. You still get the room ambience.
Right.
And if you listen to other podcasts juxtaposed to ours, and I can brag about this because it's very little of me anymore doing it, it sounds so much cleaner and better because we spend hours and hours polishing and mixing and cleaning and going through these filters and doing the crazy stuff that mostly is you. Bobby's younger than me, had a full head of hair before we started season 1. And
I hate that. No. I used to edit audio on reel-to-reel tapes. And I would always have it up loud in the radio production studio. And whenever I got to where I needed to edit a word, you go, and you just get, and then you take a grease pencil to this acetone tape and you go under and you mark it. And then you to where you want to, and same thing. And then you take it out, you splice it, tape it together, and boom, and hopefully you can't tell.
right.
And it got to a point with tape where nobody could tell, which was very fun when you would get radio commercials in and you would hear certain things. We can do this because I can swear and stuff, right?
Yeah, I want you to. Yes.
Okay. There was we got an audio tape, and they used to deliver commercials on reel-to-reel tape, small reels, and you would then dub them or record them to what's called a cart or a cartridge, very similar to an 8-track. So, and only it was a spinning loop, and you had machines that would stop it, and So I would transfer that because you would play that cartridge as your commercial on the air. Well, listening to the announcer, who, by the way, was radio voice, he would do this, in a world, that kind of thing. It was for Anne Murray's greatest hits, right? This is back when record companies used to buy commercial
when people
time.
knew the name Anne Murray.
Right. But he would do Anne Murray's greatest hits, right? Now, you got to be careful because you would do Anne Murray's greatest tits. As, if you weren't careful to separate the things, but he wasn't. And I caught him. So I took the thing and I edited the whole spot down, and it was big voice guy going, Anne Murray's tits. Classics. You'll never forget Anne Murray's tits. And meanwhile, she's thinking, na na na, na. So I did this, and I played it for our general manager and our sales manager because it meant money. And anytime it meant money, you brought them in. So I said, guys, I don't know if somebody's messing with us, but listen to this. Anne Murray's tits. Their eyes went, wrong, the thing like in cartoons where the eyes go. For like 10 seconds, they were like, holy crap, we got to get this fixed. Money, national money. It was like, then they went, I see what you did there. And then the rest was, but nobody else would do that because they didn't care to edit and take the time. And then, and out of all the years that I did editing with tape, I only sliced my finger once.
That's pretty impressive.
It was damn impressive. Did it really well, but only once. And then we had a salesperson who shall remain nameless. She was very, very lovely. She was model-esque and blonde. Blonde.
Taboo topic.
Taboo topic. She personified the dumb blonde at the time because she was learning to do the sales. So radio to her was something that was totally, different.
Yeah.
So she was learning the ins and outs. And she came in to the production studio one day, and I'm sitting there editing, and I take a grease pencil, and she goes, "Oh, do you erase the words with that pencil?" Yes. And that was that. I was like, but it was dumb blonde personified, but to her defense, she didn't,
she just didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't know. People would come in and what are you doing?
It's not like it is today. As a video producer, everybody unfortunately knows just enough to be dangerous when it comes to video. Because anymore, the thing in your pocket, the electronic in your pocket can shoot not only really good video, you can edit on the fly. And so people know how to do basic stuff, but back in the day, it was really funny where people would be like, how do you even take a video?
Yeah. I mean, and today when you talk to people that edit on computers and, because, well, that's what you do. You do video on computers. They'll look at you very strange when you mention all the things that I just did about editing video or editing tape. It's the same as, those 8mm films that your dad used to have back in the 50s and 60s that you had to splice together.
There's the terminology that is used in editing for both video and audio today is all based on, like splices and all those things are based on the actual analog physical things that you would do. And I'm lucky that even when I went to college, we had an old school audio guy who made us learn how to actually splice tape and do the cuts and use the tape and do all that.
Boom. That was so important to what I do today.
And the linear editing for news. Andrew, did you have to do that? Where you had multiple VCRs in your recording, or you had a beta machine and you're recording your spots and playing them in I grew up doing linear editing. I didn't have a computer growing up.
I'll tell you, kids today, they don't know.
No respect.
No respect. I'll tell you, no respect.
But yeah, I think it's it's a craft that I think if you at least understand where it came from, it makes you that much better on the other end. And it makes you really appreciate how easy it is to do something like take background noise out of something where you would have had to have like a 24-channel mixer for a single tape trying to just take out your different highs and lows.
And because of where technology is today, the software, as they are really building it with AI in mind, artificial intelligence, it can get pretty sophisticated and help you take away all the noises and all the, like, for example, with the latest, you can't get rid of this bouncing because this is a big place, and your voice just bounces back. But this software can pretty much eliminate a lot of that and make it seem like you're in a more intimate studio.
But I would say the big thing that people, this modern age, especially of young filmmakers and podcasters, you still want to get the best quality product in the can. You don't want to have to fix everything in post. And that's like an ongoing joke in the production world is let's fix it in post is a bullshit throwaway. You should never say let's fix it in post. And I say that almost on every shoot where I'm like, fuck it, we're going to fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post-op.
Yeah. And then I send Bobby an email. I'm so sorry about this. I need you to fix this.
But again, having this technology in hand and the software that just, it makes it so much easier to come up with a much cleaner version of the show.
Yeah. So season 1, what do you think was the biggest issue you had to deal with in audio?
Season 1 was the popping of the peas and people screaming on the microphone, and then people way back here talking like this. It was just
all over the place.
All over the place. It was very inconsistent. And the biggest, and I know this is what you want, there is this buzz, this hum that kind of happened through most of it. And it was like, where did this come from? Oh, you are the bane of my existence.
That buzz is basically like the old Christmas tree lights where one light would go out and you couldn't figure out.
And they all go out.
And they're all out. It was like trying to track down the buzz, which returned season 2, even though everything's brand new equipment, new place, everything. Somehow the buzz was back.
The buzz was there.
It was following us.
Yeah.
It's my demon, but we killed it.
We
exorcised that demon from the studio.
Raid! That's what we did.
How about season 2 so far? What's the biggest issue you noticed?
As we were talking earlier, people making their talking points and doing this on the table because they had to get, or they're just making and gesturing and hitting the table.
And we labeled these people, our inside terminology is little dictators.
That's right. They would make their thing und der button. And it drove me up a wall, sans the German accent. But, instead of gesturing out here or going like this or doing this, again, because people naturally do this.
Like
and
that.
Right. They don't know. Especially if you're Italian, you cannot help but make gestures or make a point and do this.
So next question. What's the matter you?
I went there for college.
What's your favorite episode?
Of?
Moving on. Something very few people know about you.
That Bobby Thomas is not my real name.
Or even anywhere close to it.
Nowhere close. Let's just say my ethnicity is Italian and Puerto Rican. So Bobby Thomas, nope.
Bobby, I want you to make up something so it's not copyrighted and sing us out.
Okay. See you later. In a little while. See you later. When I come back to a smile. See you later. I gotta make this up. And I don't wanna really grow up.
I really can't wait till you have to edit this shit. Bobby's voice shows up in a lot of projects, not the least of which is the beloved Mafia video game series. He did full body and voice mocap for one restaurateur NPC.
Don Salieri! Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Good to see you, Pepe.
Yes. Hey, come. Our guest has arrived, eh? Get down!
Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about in this episode yet is what happens during the actual live production of the podcast. And with me here is my lead tech crew person and co-producer on the show, Mr. Tyler Kubisty.
How's it going?
Someone who I had to wrestle to the ground to get him to be on camera because he is that much of a tech lover where he wants to be behind the scenes playing with the toys.
At all times.
Obviously, other than myself, I think you've been a part of the most episodes out of everybody involved behind the scenes on the podcast, right?
Yeah, probably, except for like 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes.
Yeah, you've been a part of almost every single episode, even from season 1, even shooting promos and everything. Season 1, obviously, we were just doing audio. So let's talk about the audio for a minute. I think people are interested to know like how we do it. You know, you have novice podcasters who will just have a laptop and they'll just record, you know, straight to their microphone and their camera. But we actually have people behind the scenes, usually, you know, up to 3 or 4 crew people. And Tyler, your main job, even beginning all the way back at season 1, has been focusing on the audio and running the board. So for somebody who doesn't really know how this works, what is it that you do?
Yeah, so basically just making sure all the audio levels are good to go and nothing is blowing out your ears, basically, and everything just sounds good for the audience, and to make sure all the inputs are in the correct order, so you know basically what to do for each show following up for the next episode.
And actually, Tyler was the one who came up with the standard protocol, which was at the beginning of every episode before we start recording, we have each person talking to their mic, because at the end you get a bunch of files and you have to figure out who's on what microphone, and he has everything color-coded, labeled, and organized.
The host isn't always the editor, so the editor has to know who's who on the show.
Okay, can everybody one by one go down the line and just say your name in the mic so he knows who's on which line?
Peter Toomey.
Tamika Shelburne.
George Smith.
Brittany Kroll.
Patrick D. Warner.
Ooh, the D. Warner. Okay, no, that's good. We need to know how to credit you in this shit.
Oh, yeah.
With the audio, there's so many things that can go wrong. Like what we talked about with Bobby and Corey is like some of the line noise and things they have to take out in post-production. But like the goal of a producer and a tech person is to make sure that you eliminate as many of those issues. Like what are some of the things that people don't think about that can happen?
Just anything from simple as the cable touching the battery plug could ruin the whole episode. I mean, just if it's too hot, like it'll be distorted.
And when you say hot, the average person doesn't understand.
Yeah, so when your levels are too high and then the person comes in all like staticky and
yeah, you get distortion on the voice.
Yeah.
So Tyler is actually doing multiple things, but the main thing that he's doing is making sure that the sound is good, that the voices are even, that, you know, that it makes less work in post-production to clean it up.
That's the goal anyway.
And that's the goal. And so he's listening to every single mic throughout every recording. And like I said, that's the large majority of these episodes. But then when in season 2, when we introduce video, you're also watching. So we have people running camera, but you'll be actually watching all of the screens on a monitor and making sure that, like, what are some of the things that you've had to tell people?
Just reframing the shot, making sure there's like not this much headroom, but it's like just right or whatever. And
things being out of focus.
Yeah, checking your focus, make sure the cameras are actually recording.
The camera guy falls asleep and forgets to zoom in or zoom out when somebody else is talking.
You throw stuff at them and get them to pay attention.
And you've even had to like live, you know, because it's not a live stream, so you can cut and stuff, but when you're in the middle of having these like deep conversations, you don't always want to interrupt it. So you've like had to make signs before and hold it up like battery died.
Yeah, we've lost battery. Just stuff happens.
Yeah.
Cards fill up and you don't really notice until you're done.
Or you have like something goes wrong with one of the mics. I mean, the technical side of like trying to produce something high quality, I don't think a lot of people understand how many eyes and ears are on it. And you're listening to everything, watching the live actual conversation, and then also essentially you're the tech director where you're making sure all the cameras are rolling, that nothing's out of focus, that things are crap. So as you can imagine, he's exhausted, and this is why he didn't want to, pick at that scab and talk about all of the stress that season 2 caused him. But he kept all of his hair and a little bit of a good attitude.
Yeah, I try.
What would you say the average person who listens or watches might not appreciate or understand
as far as like from your point of view of the podcast and why it looks and sounds so good?
I would just say the technical aspect of it. Most people just think you can slap a webcam on and you're good to go. I mean, well, sometimes that works, but if you want to do it right, that's not how you want to approach podcast production anymore.
Coming up on the next episode in part 2.
One of my specialties is audio restoration. I was getting very unceremoniously screwed over and forced out of my space by Jared Kushner, of all people, and Ivanka Trump.
Great people. Just let me say, very fine people, those Kushners. Just wonderful humans.
They're fucking terrible people.
And so are you in the heart of New York City? Where is Silver Sound at?
Silver Sound's 27th Street, between 6th and Broadway in Manhattan.
In the early days in the birth of this, you contacted me and you were feverish.
And above and beyond the podcast, you and I have worked together where there's actually money involved.
Boy, oh boy, is that still a thing?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so one more time.
Yo, grab your headphones and listen up, because we're going there.
We just went there. Now you can go to thegoingtherepodcast.com for links to all the podcast platforms, our socials, and of course, YouTube. While you're at it, give us a rating, share with a friend, and subscribe.
This podcast is made possible by its hosts and Frame One Media in association with Tyler Kubisty, Joe Calley, and Bobby Thomas.